I don't envy you to have to live Groundhog Day over and over again. What is that saying? You know, insanity, right, is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. Frustratingly, that is the GOP House Republicans that you have to deal with. But you're the expert. You're on the budget committee. Tell us some good news that we're not going to have a government shutdown.
Well, here's the good news, is that you've got some adults in the room. The Democrats have shown over the last year that every single time we come to the brink of an emergency, we are able to get our act together and make sure that we avoid a default, avoid a shutdown. I expect that we will be the heroes once again, because these are not serious people. The fact that Chip Roy would even, float the idea of once again trying to vacate the chair of the Speaker's office, it's delusional. They don't have leadership there that can bring their conference together. And the fact that we were renegotiating the top line that we, as you said, it's Groundhog Day. We already negotiated that top line back in June. And so it's so clear to me that we have to be so focused on flipping the House in 2024, because these Republicans have shown that they don't actually know how to do this work. They don't know how to govern. And you spoke to an issue that I find very infuriating, that the continuing to go after the IRS, their ability to go after tax cheats. I mean, let's think about this. What do Americans care about the most? They care about their freedoms, their rights, and fairness. Those are the things that they care about. Is it fair to allow wealthy tax cheats to get away with not paying their fair share? Absolutely not. People know this. This is not something that we should have on the table at all in this deal.
But you say people know this. Some people may know that you talk about, but do the American people know this? Because we've had this conversation, you and I, at different times. You've had this conversation with other people at different times. Do the American people understand that the House Republicans, instead of focusing on the fact that they keep on putting Band-Aids and Band-Aids on hemorrhaging wounds, that they're instead doing stuff like what I've called impeachment palooza? It's like, who can we impeach next? It's Mayorkas. Who can we impeach next? Let's go after Lloyd Austin. Do the American public, can they hear you? Are they hearing the Democrats? Are they seeing that it's Democrats are that, quote, adults in the room?
Well, they certainly see the contrast, because they know that it's been chaos for an entire year. In terms of the IRS issue, I think what we need to get better about is translating to Americans directly how that impacts them. So when you look at the tax code, for example, if you are a wealthy American, you already have so many advantages. And yet here we are, 1% of the richest, the wealthiest people in this country have been able to recapture 2/3 of the additional wealth since the pandemic. So there is a clear distinction to be made between the haves and the have-nots here. And there is no story that the Republicans can tell about their successes. Even Chip Roy, in his famous speech on the House back in December, said, show me one thing, he's talking to his own college, show me one thing that we can say to the American people that we got done. So the fact that he is even once again, floating the idea of bringing his conference back into chaos, it tells me that this conference is bankrupt at this point.
Well, what's not bankrupt is the idea that in 2024, you got all the House Republicans probably talking about tax cuts, right, for the rich. I wanted to ask you one quick question before I had to let you go. Moderate Dems, are they willing to support Mike Johnson if that motion to vacate comes up that Chip Roy just threatened?
I think they are. I certainly have many friends who are would consider themselves in districts that are frontline districts, and they have said they're not interested in having 3 more weeks or more of chaos while the Republicans, struggle and scramble to try to get themselves back together. We just don't have that kind of time. The American people want us to do some work. And you didn't mention it, but I have to mention it because this has been the least productive Congress in recent history, in almost 100 years. And we're on track to be the least productive ever that this country has seen. And that is because the Republicans, even with their slim majority, were not able to deliver. When Speaker Pelosi had a slim majority, we got the Inflation Reduction Act. We got the infrastructure bill. We have so many things that delivered for actual Americans that they care about, like reducing the price of insulin. What do the Republicans have to show from this year? Just fight after fight after fight. And as you pointed out, making it easy for the wealthy to cheat on their taxes. That's something to campaign on.
I think you're shortchanging them. I think they passed post office names. I think they actually managed to do that.
Never forget that. I love the post office, but the naming part, not as important, perhaps.
How about funding the post office so people can actually get their mail? No thanks to the Republicans, that doesn't happen. Congresswoman Becca Balint, thanks for being here.